why is it a terrible idea?
Well, I think legalization is really an extreme answer. We bring up some legitimate questions about the underground market and incarceration, and I don't think anybody wants to necessarily throw people in jail for smoking marijuana, but the issue is legalization isn't going to do these things that are being promised. I mean, I'm still waiting for the lottery to save public education and for alcohol taxes to pay for the cost that alcohol brings to society. The math doesn't work, and frankly, the law might have changed in Colorado, but the science hasn't changed. And the science still says that kids who start to smoke marijuana, 1 in 6 of them will be addicted, according to the National Institute of Health. We know that marijuana increased car crash risk. The British Medical Journal just reported that, mental illness, on and on. So it's obviously not as harmful as cocaine or heroin. This isn't about reefer madness. But to go to such an extreme policy as saying we want to legalize it and have it more available and more normalized, I think is a bit over the top.
Tell me one thing, though, that is worse with cannabis than alcohol in relation to the effect if you overdo alcohol if you're a young person, for example.
Well, I think they're very different. Actually, alcohol has absolutely no connection in terms of the IQ loss and learning and memory, which we just learned from the most comprehensive study, the Dunedin cohort in New Zealand that followed over 1,000 people for 30 years and found that people who smoked marijuana regularly before they turned age 18 had 8 fewer IQ points than those who didn't smoke by the time they were in their mid-30s.
But what about let me jump in. What about
Sure.
those who drank heavily from the age of 13, for example?
Look, both of those
they
things,
would suffer similar issues, wouldn't they?
Some similar, some worse, and some worse, and some not there. But the point is, they're both not, frankly, healthy for young people in society. Now we have a black market which will exclusively target young people because it's going to be legal for those over 21.
Okay, but the point, Brian, let me bring in Brian Vicente again. The point, though, is if you regulate it like alcohol and you tax it like alcohol, you have a better form of control over it. Isn't that the argument?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. We know one thing. Marijuana prohibition has been a massive failure. It has not worked by any measure. It's been incredibly costly, and it's ruined many, many Americans' lives by giving them drug convictions and making it tougher to get jobs or even putting them in jail. So we know that if we can get marijuana off the streets and we can tax it and use that money for positive purposes, take it away from cartels, our state will be better off. And Washington and Colorado have decided to move forward with a new approach and end the failed policy of prohibition. Marijuana prohibition didn't work any better than alcohol prohibition. We need to learn from the past and move forward.